Is it recording? It is. All right, what's up, you guys? I'm Will. This is Willpower Astrology. I just made that Mercury retrograde video, and now we're doing more videos because I'm sitting here talking about it and thinking about it. So this has been like a transit that's been hovering kind of in the background of my imagination for several years, and I kind of didn't know how to talk about it, or you know what I mean. It's like when I made my North Node and Cancer videos um, years ago, and I kind of was talking about like the COVID and the economic downturn and all this type of stuff. I didn't really have anything to conceptualize it, but now that I'm like, well, okay, now we're in the middle of this. So 2020, North Node of Cancer kicks off a series of events, including an economic downturn that we're about to experience as the North Node shifts into Taurus. So what really got me going on this is I just went on a TikTok like rabbit hole of people going off. If you look up on TikTok, Pluto return, America's Pluto return, whatever, people are basically like out there, the economy is gonna collapse. You know what I mean? Like empires last like 250 years, and America's time is up. You know what I mean? It's this whole Pluto coming back, and Pluto as it has a generational effect and as like a conflict and decay and regeneration and like stripping things down type of moment. So as America having its Pluto return on, I think it's February 22nd of 22 to 22, that's like a that's something. Anyways, so I've been on this whole rabbit hole of TikTok, America's Pluto return. People are just like, it's over, it's over. And if you look up, and this is what got me going yesterday, and I'm like, well, if people are gonna make some crazy ass predictions like this, I can get on here and at least talk about the astrology of what's going on, my opinion about it. Like, all right, so look up the Nostradamus predictions for this year. It's basically people are saying it's cyborgs, it's nuclear war, it's an asteroid hits the Earth. Like people are talking about some wild ass shit. Like, don't look up. So yeah, so I was looking up Nostradamus predictions for this year, which are intense. Don't look them up if you know we're going right to bed in a minute. Um, anyway, so this is what's happening. So Pluto is the generational planet. It spends a long time in each sign, and it's been spending about 10 years in each sign. So I was born in the 80s. I have Pluto in Scorpio. I'm one of the oldest millennials, right? Then as Pluto moved into Sagittarius in 95, then you have the Gen Z kids being born all the way up to 2008. So like 95 to 2008. So it's like a 13-year span for the Gen Z generation. So then Pluto moves into Capricorn January of 08, and then it's going to be moving out of Capricorn fully. It's going to start moving out of Capricorn into Aquarius, and it's going to be fully out of Capricorn by 11 of 24. So Capricorn has been slowly moving through Pluto's been slowly moving through Capricorn, which is the kids that are not Gen Z, the younger kids than that we don't have a name for, that's them. Pluto and Capricorn from 08 to 23, 24. It's not, is it Generation Alpha? Like, I don't know what we're referring to them as, but it's like, they're not Generation Alpha yet, because as Pluto moves into its Pluto return around 28 degrees of Capricorn, and then moves over where the Great Conjunction was at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So Pluto is going to be like doop, boop, boop for the next couple of years from now until moving out into 24. So what we have is America's Pluto return happening on top of where the Great Conjunction happened in December of 2020. Go look back at my previous post about it. You can search it on my website. But Jupiter is like the vision and the future and expansion and kind of spiritual and justice and all this kind of stuff. And it's saying yes, yes, yes. And then Saturn is like constrictions and rules and boundaries and like hard lessons and like laws and, you know, it's constrictions and all this type of stuff. So when the conjunction happens once every 20 years, and it's been happening in like the last several times 20-year cycles has happened, it's been like Taurus, Libra, um, Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. It's been all these very earth signs. And so now that it's in Aquarius, we have the ability to have this kind of mass movement on a global scale, which like the summer of 2020 leading up to the Great Conjunction, we had the biggest uprising in human history, which now what are, where does that go? Where does that momentum take us? All that type of stuff. Where are we going with that? Is a big theme of what's going on right now, because that was at 0 degrees Aquarius. And so now Mercury, planet of awareness, communication, talking, knowledge, this is like going over this point 3 times. It passes over it. It already did that. When did it do that? Mercury. Mercury went into the shadow zone. So it passed over anyway, whatever. At the end of December, coming into January, and now when it stations retrograde on the 14th, it's going to back up and go over 0 degrees on 126 and 215. So there you go. I wrote down 0 degrees, 126. It's going to back up to 0 degrees on January 26th. And then when it comes through on the third cycle coming out of, it's going to pass over 0 degrees on February 15th. So my crazy out there prediction is I think we're going to start hearing some type of announcements that have to do with some type of later thing. We've already been getting, so this Mercury retrograde, if you looked at my other thing that's happened, we had the same Mercury retrograde in Aquarius last year. So if you're feeling like it's just kind of like a hiccup and it's the same thing, it is a little bit, but we're going to get into that Cap life. So Mercury retrograde going over the Great Conjunction on January 26th, going over the Great Conjunction on at the end of December, going over it again on February 15th. Mercury passing over these things creates an awareness, and it creates like a reevaluation within your chart. So wherever this is falling, this kind of collective consciousness is coming to your awareness. It's coming at you through your 2nd house of money and value. It's coming at you through your 6th house of work. I'm talking about all the earth houses. It's coming at you through your 9th house of philosophy. Maybe this shit is like you're just coming to the awareness of this. And it's like, whoa, it's just opening your eyes. You're saying, what's this and what's that? Welcome. It's that type of gig. You know what I mean? So Mercury passing over all the Great Conjunction brings us to an awareness of what's going to happen and coming up with it. So then as Pluto comes over the next couple of years, we're going to be dealing with the ramifications. So the first thing that I can think of that has been, it's like a concrete example of this, is the Republican tax plan that was enacted a couple of years ago, the Trump tax plan, where initially it seemed to help working class people and more people got more money on their taxes. And then ramping up to several years, including this year, leading up to 24, 25, it's basically taxing, average Joe ass off. And so I think that kind of policy now coming into shape as the North Node goes from Gemini into Taurus, goes from ideas into like creation. Just think it's a really poignant time. I think we're going to be aware of, like, I think supply chain issues that we've been aware of over this last while is going to suddenly come into like a practical sense. And especially as the North Node moves into Taurus, we might be dealing with shortages. We might be dealing with, you know what I mean, poverty, that type of gig. So right now, Mercury retrograde, this is a great time to kind of make sure, like, I don't know what, like on an extreme level, make sure that you've got your food storage, your water supply, your emergency shit, you're like ready. You know what I mean? I was saying to my other thing, like, do you have a good relationship with your neighbors? Like, do you have a good relationship with the literal people in your community, not just like your friends that you talk to? I mean, it's kind of a crazy year. It's kind of like it's not even Y2K. It's like, it's another Nostradamus prophecy, like around the turn of the century. So it's wild out here. So this Mercury retrograde, communication being on a global. Oh, this isn't a post about Mercury retrograde. This is a post literally about Pluto and the troubles. So Pluto and the Great Conjunction. So Pluto bringing generational change and decay and transformation over the top of where the Great Conjunction has been the meeting of the needs of the present to the vision of the future, right? So Pluto now slowly moving over that. It's bringing all this stuff into real life. This stuff is going to have real consequences. So before, like what we're like, something that I think is worth talking about is like the way that people talk about like something they're talking about really big right now is the CDC director or lady or whoever that was talking about oh, well, you know, people were showing comorbidities and that's kind of a relief. So basically saying it's this whole thing about like like dismissing disabled people, dismissing people of color, dismissing women, dismissing like they're that jet going overhead really distracted me. Um, but it's like saying oh, that like really distracted me. I don't know what I'm talking about. But Pluto going over the top of the Great Conjunction over and over again over the next couple of years. There's a couple of crazy things that I'm kind of can see happening, and I saw this guy on TikTok talking about it. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just start saying that's why I'm wearing my like tinfoil hat robe or whatever. But Democrats haven't delivered on anything since having majority control of the House. I don't know if they're going to get the votes back in 2022 to hold the House. I don't know if they're going to win the presidential election in 2024. There's like a Canadian author that is saying that by 2025 to 2030 that the American could basically be like under the control of a right-wing dictatorship. Um, so there's like major shakeups happening. Like maybe there's not going to be an America anymore, you know? So, anyways, as Pluto fully moves, like it starts in 2023, and then by the end of 2024, it's moved out fully of Capricorn into Aquarius, and so then the Gen Z kids are all done, and like the kids that are under the Gen Z kids are all almost done. So then once we get to the kids that are starting to be born in 23 and 24, Pluto spends like 20 years. Pluto spends a hell of a lot longer in Aquarius than it did in the previous other signs. You know what I mean? It's how many years is it here? Oh, 8 to 13. Maybe 15, 16 years there, 13 years there, maybe 12 years for millennials. But Pluto's going to spend a long time in the sign of Aquarius. Pluto's going to be there until from 2023 until 2043. So Pluto's going to be in Aquarius for 20 years. So think about it, like all millennials, like millennials is a huge, there's more millennials than any other generation. I don't think that anybody really sinks into like what does that mean? Um, there's more millennials than anybody else, and they were born in a 12-year period. And then there's like these other things, and then Pluto in Aquarius is going to be such a long span of these kids being born to this energy. So I don't know if they're talking like when we're talking about the dawning of the age of Aquarius, it's going to be these Great Conjunction in Aquarius cycle from 2020 to 2040, from 2023 to 2043, Pluto in Aquarius, right? Kids that are being born that are going to be alive in the next 100 years, like after this, because we're not in the age of Aquarius yet. It's just because the Great Conjunction happened in Aquarius, it's just a 20-year span. We're still not to the end of the age of Aquarius, like 2150, 2159, some kind of bullshit like that. So it's going to be our kids that sees this shit. So we're at the end, we're like the dying of the age of Pisces. We're like at the dawning of the age of Aquarius, but literally it's the kids that are about to start being born in this big chunk of time. They're going to be alive when it actually starts happening this way. But look at all this crazy shit, man. This hopefully this Aquarius energy is going to take us to the future, instead of nuke us all to death, because don't look up Nostradamus this year. Let me tell you that. So hopefully this Aquarius, brotherhood, fraternity, high-minded, freedom, ideals are going to leap us forward into the future. Hopefully we're going to start making some forward-thinking solutions. Hopefully this energy is going to shift, but it's going to be a period of intense conflict as Pluto moves over the Great Conjunction area and over America's Pluto return for the next several years into 2023, 2024. This is like an intense period of change. Kind of don't take anything for granted. In like, I want to be as both like as cryptic and as bold as possible, but like, kind of institutions are on the way out, and people power is on the way in. And if it's not for the people, it's not. If it's not doing right for the actual people, then it's not the thing. If you're just sitting there trying to do the same old shit, then that's not the way. If you're trying to, like, it's time to think of, make, and do a new thing. And that vision needs to carry us into the future. We can't sit here and spin in the wheels the old way. I think there's going to be a really scary and intense period of change and adjustment. They're talking about literally the economy is going to collapse. So what does that mean? Poverty, could be power outage, could be lack of resources. What happens if you don't have water? What happens if you don't, like, it sounds nuts, but after the last couple of years, what's nuts? You know what I mean? To be honest, I might be, like, this year my hobby is going to be gardening and talking to all my neighbors and making sure that everybody has what they need around me. That's what my goal is going to be this year. Just planting my little seeds, North Node and Taurus, growing my own little garden, minding my own little business, and making sure that everybody around me is growing. You know what I mean? South Node and Scorpio, using that dynamics of support from Scorpio to grow my own little garden and make sure that it's all growing around me. Because this astrology right here, this Pluto and this Great Conjunction and all this Mercury retrograde happening over the top of it, this is a very, and Venus retrograde in Capricorn as well. Like, this is a very intense time and a culmination. And I think that after Venus goes direct at the end of January, and we go out of Mercury retrograde at the beginning of February, things are going to speed up and it's just going to be too fast, too fast, too fast. So take a minute, take stock. I don't know, man. Don't give away your money. Make sure you have the goods and supplies that you, relationships around you that you need. I mean, I'm not saying we need to go toilet paper hoard again, but I don't know. I'm fully tin hat, getting ready for like a really intense, crazy situation where I might need to be prepared for anything. So, oh, and all the Jesus-fearing, you know what I mean, gun-toting nutbags are also doing that, except for they are mounting a religious war against the homosexuals. So have fun with that, Pluto in the Great Conjunction. But